Good evening, folks. It's NUFC Matters. Ben Jacobs is stuck on a train, so I'm going to have to fly solo. I'm hoping that Mitch and Stu will join me in the next 15 minutes or so. Roll the titles.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot see.
Good evening. Welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Sorry for the delay. Ben Jacobs and I miscommunication this morning. I did send him the link this morning. He was all set to come on, but just got a message which he sent at 9:10 to be fair, 9:10 this morning to be fair, saying that he needs to move the show because he's going to be on a train as he's traveling to Manchester, and things only got moved around this morning. So apologies to everyone who was expecting to see Ben Jacobs today, but I have put out an SOS to Mitch and Stu, and hopefully one, if not both, will be able to join me on the screen as we progress through the night. Mitch is certainly up for it. He's just going to try and get in touch with Stu, and we can move the professional show from Wednesday to tonight. Okay, as always, plenty to get through on the Newcastle United beat, and we will look back, I guess, on a fantastic performance against Manchester City and the injury issues which have been caused from that. What I will do in the meantime is give a shout out, as always, to our sponsors. Big thank you to Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, independent funeral directors. You can find them at 304 Old Durham Road, Gateshead. Telephone 0191 478 273, or email Darren at darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. The website, of course, darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk too. And Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. And thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at mrvickies.co.uk or 01768 210 102. Thanks to Away Day Clothing, and thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. If you want to subscribe to the channel, then click the NUFC Matters logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to leave a question from me and whoever happens to join us tonight. Big thank you as well to iTunes and Spotify. We're available on there, and other podcast providers. Usually goes up 24 hours after the show has finished. And if you want to become a member, click join underneath the video today, and you can make a small donation to the channel. Or if you want to join the cult and receive a pen, a cup, a scarf, and a membership card, then you just need to go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and click membership. Pay a one-off fee, and you'll also receive entry into the monthly draw. You can also use this QR code if you've got a smartphone to take you straight there. Don't forget as well, we support the food bank on this channel. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is the virtual bucket. You can go there 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year, and make a virtual donation to the food bank. We will have a running total, I think, in due course from Steve Hasty on that. I think we've made quite a lot of money for that over the last couple of years. Don't forget as well, Peter Beardsley Soccer School continues to run throughout August. If you want to get your kids involved, then visit peterbeardsleysoccerschool.com. And that's the end of the adverts. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Okay, get your comments in. I'm going to work my way through them as we wait for one of the lads or both of the lads to join us. Geordie Toomba Life says, any news on players potentially moving to Newcastle? Madison, Paqueta and Pedro, as he's in the news. Question 2, any truth in the rumour that Leicester's for sale? Well, we'll have that second one for Ben when we do manage to reschedule the show. But as for transfer news today, Pedro obviously is the big one. Newcastle United alleged to have made an increased bid. Certain reporters are saying that is the case. Other reporters are dampening the fire on that one and saying it's not 100%. As Tom Lynch points out, different sources are seeing different things. Just how close is João Pedro to signing? Once again, my mindset on this is let's just wait until he's standing wearing the strip on the pitch and having the scarf above his head, because you're right. Journalists do have different opinions. They have different stories that they're putting out there, and it's not doing anybody any good in the fan base. I think there is mountain frustration. We've talked about it on other shows throughout the week and over the transfer window. We seem to be linked with X, Y, and Z, and then that player goes here, that player goes there, and we don't seem to get the players over the line. So yeah, a lot of it's speculation, and I think we just wait and see. Pedro certainly seems to be further down the line than most. Obviously, the big news that was coming out of Sky Sports News today was that Everton have been in contact with Watford and potentially could table a bid. And I guess a lot of that depends on what happens with the outgoings at other clubs. Everton, of course, have Anthony Gordon. Chelsea are, sniffing around and trying to get him potentially through the door at Stamford Bridge, as well as other players. They're also chasing for Fofana, of course, at Leicester. So there is a merry-go-round of players ready to start moving within this last week of football, and Newcastle will be involved. Of course, they'll be involved in that. And Eddie Howe, when he did his press conference for the League Cup game against Tranmere, which of course is tomorrow night, essentially said that yes, we hope we will be involved, in the transfer dealings in the next week. So, watch this space, I guess, is what we would say. The Maddison one's interesting, Geordie Toompa Life, because, obviously, as you've heard Stu Penman, especially on this show, exuding confidence that we will spend, money, we will essentially put in our, break our transfer record on this. So we'll see, but it is certainly interesting. Okay, I'm going to bring Mitch in. Hi, Mitch. Thank you for stepping in.
All right, mate.
Ben Jacobs at short notice.
Do you want us to answer every question in the Ben Jacobs style, whereby I can drag every answer out as long as physically possible and present two sides of an argument, and therefore at the end of everything I can see I presented both sides of the argument and see I was right?
Well, essentially, yeah, that would be great, because it means I can go and have my tea. Joking aside, thanks for coming on, mate, and much appreciated. I know you were quite busy at work, but you managed to squeeze this in. Just talking about the transfer window, mate, and obviously Pedro seems to be that step closer, mate. It's but then we see Everton coming in on the outside lane, and we're just wondering if they're going to make a bid, and is that going to make things a little bit more difficult for Newcastle to get this kid over the line?
I think what we're seeing, we've said this all along, that after the initial flurry, it was going to be a big poker game right to the last end of the window. For me, Everton chucking interest into this player, the only thing they could potentially offer him is more regular first team football. They cannot really offer him anything more than that. They might chuck some silly wages at him, perhaps, if indeed they are interested and if indeed things are where they're at. You've got to remember we're locked down tighter than a nat's chuff at the minute, and there's not a lot getting out, and that's why you're getting three versions of every story, because people aren't getting the full story. People aren't hearing what they used to hear from Newcastle United, and that's a good thing. So I'm pretty relaxed about it. I'm still getting me money on the 3Ps coming in Pedro, Paqueta and Pulisic. However, this news today about Callum Wilson, does that suddenly chuck a little left field discussion into the equation about, do we need to rethink about the striker cover, depending on what we're looking at? Because he seems to be put together with butter, doesn't he? And if this is another bad hamstring injury, or if it's even a hamstring injury that is going to mean time out, that's an annoying thing to happen at this time of the season, and it raises questions. What people were confident when he had a full pre-season under Eddie Howe, would he be better? And he may not be. And that's difficult. So, where do we go with it? I guess only Eddie Howe and Ashworth know.
Yeah, Century Bat says Mr. Wilson is stretching for every ball. He's so determined he risks his limbs for a chance at goal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the case, isn't it? He does put his heart and soul into it. It was a very fast-paced game, of course, at the weekend.
It was a crazy game at the weekend. And what a fantastic yardstick. And I think something I would say to everybody, particularly the section of my fan base that still has Stockholm syndrome with Mike Ashley, that's still expecting to be disappointed at the end of the window with a loan signing and lots of promises and nothing delivered. I think that performance at the weekend and Mike Ashley would have seen him sign nobody else. He would have turned around and said, that's it, we've just matched Man City, we're fine. I think under this ownership, they look at that and say, good grief, we've just matched Man City. How do we get better? How do we get better? And I think that will encourage the transfer activity, not discourage it, which is what we're used to.
Steve Middlemas says, looks like the Wilson Sable story. Couple of games then injured. We have to get 2 replacements, in my opinion, who can stay fit for 20 plus games. Lots of frustration, I guess, at that. We knew it was coming. We hoped it wouldn't be this soon into the season, but it is. And I guess the beauty of it is, at least it's before the transfer window shuts, Mitch. We know what we need to do now, and if anybody does gamble in on this, then they're crazy, because, as you say, the benchmark has been set on Sunday. We can see what we can achieve. We need that investment, and we need it now.
And I think they're willing to do it. I genuinely think the owners are willing to do it. I think we will look at the end of this transfer window and be all happy and all be able to sit back and say, we did things sensibly, but with progress, and we've actually invested. And I'm still confident of that. I'm concerned by we now seem to have a growing voice within the fan base that says, just spend the money. But then when a name's named, go and put that on him. Well, who else? You can't have both. Because if we just spend the money, we'll be in Everton's shoes soon. And that's the reality. Until that commercial income catches us up and starts us to let us really expand in FFP, then we have to still have an air of caution about it, which is frustrating for sure when you see teams like Forest doing all sorts of ridiculous things, because they genuinely are sticking all of their money on red and hoping the roulette wheel lands on them. That's what they're doing. That wouldn't please me as a fan, because it would scare the life out of us. I know I'm tainted by years of working within football finance and talking to different people with interest in buying Newcastle and looking at all sort of different aspects of that within the game. But when people within the game, I speak to them and I say to them, what do you think about Forest? And it starts with a big sucking in of air through teeth. That says a lot, Nobody's quite excited by it who have level-headed, and I don't want to pay on Forest parade. Well done, you got promoted, you're coming to the Premier League, but your owner's genuinely taking a gamble. And today it seems by buying a player and then loaning him straight out to his other club, Olympiacos, he's also taking a piss. So this all has to be looked at, I think, and reined in. The question is will the football authorities do that? That's a good question.
Interesting story there. Tom Dixon, who I think he's on his Lilo, still on his holidays, still managing to jump in the chat. Hope you're having a good time, Tom. Is it true that Everton not interested in Miggy Almiron? I mean, it's a strange one, that, isn't it? We're going to have a few daft things chucked in this week.
Just literally tonight, while I was walking across to come back into work to get connected, had a little brief conversation with an Everton fan I know out here who is well connected to football matters in Liverpool. The interest is real. And he said, do you think you would sell him? And I said, I think he's one who would be available at the right price. But he immediately then says, yeah, but at what price? And I'm not sure if he makes us any better. So obviously, certain fans have had their views tainted by Jack Grealish's comments at the end of last season. I think it's something which I think it's a watch this space. I think if we suddenly need to change tack in terms of how we need to bring in and who we need to bring in, Almiron is a player who I think could be sacrificed. Whether you like him or not, and whether you feel for him or not, I think he's a player who is in that sort of range where if a good offer came in for him, I don't think they'd turn it down. And I think if that means then, for example, signing 2 strikers to cover what's happening with Wilson, then so be it. I think we've got to look at the bigger picture of how our squad makeup is, because squad management has been terrible over the last few years. We've been left with certain players on contracts who really are just taking up space. And so, that there have to be a certain few players who may be at risk if the right bid was to come in for them in the next 2 weeks.
Graham Morton, doing a bit of roving reporting here. He says, Conor Gallagher's a definite no. I spoke with his brother Dan at Dorking on Saturday and he won't leave London or the South. So, unconfirmed reports there.
Something was said last season before he went off to Palace, was that he really wanted just to stay in the Southeast. And so that wouldn't surprise us.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like a nonsense statement.
No, definitely not. And I mean, thanks for sharing that with us, Graham. Agreed. Clubber market is crazy. Dunnell saying just towards the Anthony Gordon pricing of 60 million, and Leicester seem to be hiking up they're knocking everything back. I think the Fofana bid by Chelsea was 50 million or 60. Was it 50 million plus 10 million add-ons? 60 million for him, and they've knocked that back. They clearly want a king's ransom for their players.
Do you know what it feels like to me? It feels like a set of owners who are getting ready to get out, and they want as much in as possible for every asset that they sell, and they'll keep the club ticking. Sound familiar? I think that's what we're looking at. I think Leicester City's owners, and I think the family, with the loss of the chairman, with the real driving force behind it. I think the family behind King Power, I've heard rumours that they want out. And that's very strong in this part of the world, because obviously the business in Asian football's quite tight. So there's a suggestion their owners want out, and if that's the case, you'll see them milk every penny they can with any sale that they're making this one.
Yeah, Caretaker says every signing is just tortuous at the moment. Opposition clubs making us work hard to buy players.
It's not just us, though. If you look at some of the other teams, there's not much of the money go around at the moment. And when you do see what's happening to certain players, you go, how much? Because the market is absolutely nuts for certain players and certain types of players. And so, do you want, again, I come back to this, do you want to see us joining in with that and just chucking money left, right and centre, and then regretting it leisure in 2 years' time when we've got to make everything balanced and these players turn out to be shite? It's a difficult one, and I get it's difficult because we've been revved up by everybody everywhere because we're the richest club in the world, in inverted commas. That may be the case, but we still have to play by the rules. And I'm telling you now, Saudi owners will play by the rules.
Kevin Smith says, Steve, this could make or break our season. The potentially new players are looking on at lack of activity or unwillingness to spend big money. I think any potential player would be looking at Newcastle saying, wow, they are doing their business properly, and just look at the capabilities of the team that they've got there after a 3-3 draw with Man City. That's
exactly what I would say as well. I think many players would be looking at what we did at the weekend. God, that'd be good to join them. Look what they've just done. And I would also say to Mark there, slow at getting deals done or patient. Are we going to get these deals done at our terms or as close to our terms as possible? Yes, we've got the money to chuck at it, but why should we? Why should we be scalped for an extra 20 million for someone? There's a difference between slow and patient.
No, I would agree, mate, 100%. Let's look back at the game, mate. We don't often get a chance to do this because, like Wednesday night, it's long gone. So Tuesday, here we are. We've talked about it, mentioned it a little bit. Some outstanding performances, a great team performance first and foremost. The goalkeeper looks more of a bargain each game he plays. I mean, he almost single-handedly won us the point down at Brighton, and then puts in a wonderful performance despite conceding 3 goals. He saved numerous chances. And outfield, we've got to say, special mention to ASM, because he had one of those games that we have talked about so many times on here. And the reason that there's always a high degree of frustration on here is because that's what the guy can do. But Brighton the week before did absolutely nothing apart from embarrass himself by doing a ridiculous dive on the ground. So that's what we want to see from St. Maximin. Now, I'll tell you what, I've just caught up with the interview. You may have seen it. I haven't. I only caught up with the interview at the end of the Sky coverage today with ASM and Kieran Trippier. And it was very, very, very enlightening into what the real relationship is between him and the captain. And I found that a fascinating insight, because ASM, I thought, might have been a little bit, smug, whatever. He wasn't. He was looking at Kieran Trippier, listening to everything he had to say. Kieran Trippier praised him to the hilt, and rightly he should. And then he turned around and he said, "It's because I've been listening to him." And he says, he's been talking to me and telling me what I need to do, and I've been listening to him. And I tell you what, again, Kieran Trippier has come into that dressing room. He's a proper captain, and he's doing everything he can. You can see it when he was injured as well. He was doing it to turn that dressing room round, and he could solve the ASM problem himself, and with the help of Eddie Howe. What do you think, Mitch?
Massaging the best out of the ASM has been a conundrum we've had for the last 3 years, and I want to see him doing that more than 1 game in 5 or 1 game in 8. We know what he can do. He took Man City's right back to the cleaners, and then took him for his shopping, bought him a newspaper, and sat him down in the corner and said, "Sit there and be a good lad." He absolutely destroyed Walker. There is not many players will do that this season. That's what we know. We know he is capable of. And that's the frustration with him, is because he doesn't seem to have an ability to click with it every week. Now, if letting him go and do his outside football interests and be happy, and everybody's behind that, and he's going to listen to his captain and the players in the dressing room, and suddenly we're going to see more application and more appearances. We know not every player can be at that 100% every week. It just doesn't happen. There's very few players can do that, and we'll accept that. We'll also accept that mercurial talent like that will sometimes disappear up its own backside. But we want to see that less often. We want to see more of this weekend, more often. That's all we're asking for. Because he can be a legend here if he wants. But the only person that can make his mind up on that is him. I would love to have 10 minutes with him. Just open his eyes to the possibilities. He can be anything he wants in a black and white shirt. He genuinely has the potential and the skill to be a legend. And I mean that absolutely sincerely. And I would love nothing more than to see this season him end up with 15 goals, 20 assists, and everybody shitting their pants every time he steps on the pitch because their fullback might be turned inside out the way Walker was yesterday on Sunday. That's what we want. That's what excites me. And if he does something like that regularly, he has the opportunity to make himself a genuine Newcastle United legend, where people will be talking about him in years to come. People will still have his name on the back of the shirts in years to come. And that's what's on the table. I gather he's been offered a new contract. I know there's we talked about this, I think, on Friday in 3 Amigos, that there was a new contract on the table with some of the terms and get-out clauses removed. Now, whether the story today is about his people turning that one down, or whether that's somebody being late to the party with info about new contracts being offered, it's by the by. We need more of that. We'd love to see more of that. That's why people's emotions run high when they feel like he's being criticised sometimes, whether that's fairly or unfairly. I shape some of my opinions based on other information I've been given in good faith from very good sources over the last 2 years. Some of the things it blow me mind, but at the same time, when you see what he can do and when he ingratiates himself into the fan base and does some of the very positive things that he's done that we have talked about. It's not all been negative. We've talked about him rocking up the food bank unannounced with the check for Bill. You could still knock Bill down with a feather from that day. Some of the generous things he does, it shows he isn't a total and utter lunatic. There's a good guy in there, and we just need to find ways how to make it all come together. And that's what I'd like to see more of, because on Sunday, he was electrifying. He was breathtaking. And I can do as many superlatives as you like, because that's the player we know he can be. We just want to see it more often.
Yeah, exactly. And look, the opinions of everybody on this show has been exactly the same. And I can go back 2 years to the very start of NUFC matters, where we were all still at times frustrated with the SM. And that is the conundrum. It's getting the best out of him 24/7, every game. And players will have bad days, but he needs to keep that consistency.
At times it's like trying to do a Rubik's Cube wearing a blindfold in the time tunnel. Mm-hmm. How do we make this work? And then at other times it just looks so easy. And I know that's the price on the ticket of high skill mercurial players like that. That genuinely is. Sometimes they will go missing. Go back in history, Charlie George, Frank Worthington, they were absolutely superb every game. But to be fair to them, they were in the pub sometimes up to 10 minutes before kick-off, and then we know fine well the SN isn't. So, would love to see just more of that amazing ability that he has that bit more often. And he can put teams to the sword on his own. Imagine a situation where, and I think this was some of the things in one of his interviews where he got criticised for, I genuinely believe, was a bit of lost in translation. I think what he was trying to say is if you stick somebody like me on the right wing, I'm not going to be double teamed all the time, and I can provide more assists and more to the game if I'm playing around players of a higher caliber in my team. And I think that's the message he was trying to convey, which got kind of a bit lost in translation and then exaggerated in translation by some of the French football outlets that just wanted to have a go at Newcastle at that particular time. And so, it is a difficulty and has always been a difficulty. But if Eddie Howe and Kieran Trippier are the key to unlocking it, crack on. Let's see more of it, because we'll all be happy at the end of the day. Although some people seem to relish being miserable, even in a great weekend of football. We should all be happy at the end of it if he's turning out performances like that week in, week out. And yeah, he'll have the odd bad weekend, everybody does. But would like to see that more often than one game in a year.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm sure we will. And I have watched with interest. I have been busy today, busy on the film that I'm putting together, The New Breed of Criminal, which you'll hear lots more about over the course of the next few months. But yeah, I have been aware of the craziness going on Twitter today. And I think we'll cover it, Mitch, because you're here and I'm here.
Well, mate, no, I think
Stu isn't on here at the moment, and I'm sure he'll want to have his say. But I just want to say, I'll say, Stu, Mitch, if you're not keen on saying it, that it's no different to anything else that's happened over the last 2 years. We are forever being taken out of context. What it's done is it's increased the subscriptions by another 100 on the channel today. I want to give a big thank you to NUFC Gallagher on Twitter, who put out the Supermac comments about the referee over the weekend, and not only got our video of Supermac and the dog and parrot after the match close to 4,000 views on the night, but just helped promote the channel. That's what it should be about. We should be about helping each other on that social media platform. And no amount of name calling, horrendous character assassination, provocation on there will ever change me or the way that I am, because, I will say now that the dog and parrot again on Sunday, was wonderful. People coming up, and I find it at times embarrassing when people come up and thank me and say, you've done so much good with this show, and you got me through some dark times, and we love it and we watch it together. I had a couple who came in, who just came in to see me. and say just that at the weekend. And I was taken aback. I know Mitch and Stu had it when they were over the other week. You know, I find it, you know, I wouldn't say uncomfortable because that's the wrong thing to say, but it's just nice to know that we've got so much love out there, so much respect. 500 people watching tonight in the chat. Some fantastic moderators who aren't just names on a screen. They're actually people who I've gone out to meet, have a drink with, and socialize with when they've been up here. All the people who've been and gone on the show, I've met and got to know, and you know, people, you know, the loaded lads. I think there's only Martin who I've got to meet now, who'll be coming over in April. Andre from Bulgaria, Chris from Liverpool, Pete from Leicester. It's a whole new bunch of people who I love and respect, and who've all got different opinions, probably about ASM compared to me. But that's what it's all about, being a fan. And I don't get sucked into this whole thing on Twitter. I felt I had to jump in this morning just to say a couple of things because I could see what was going on and wanted to jump in and defend me mates. But you'll never break the bond that we've got. Me, Mitch, Steve Hasty, and Stu Penman are mates and have been mates for a long time. And things have happened in the past and things have been said in the past. Who gives a monkeys? We're friends. And if you can't disagree with your friends and make up, then who can you disagree and make up with? But we're all too long in the tooth, pardon the dentist pun. But that's my say. You can tell I'm not affected by it. I just crack.
Look, I've said this before when it comes to me and you. If people want to see an insight into it, have a look at some of the WhatsApp chats we've had over the last 2.5 years. Hasn't always been patting each other on the back, has it?
No.
And this is exactly it. But these are people we've known in real life for a long time, got to know even better over certain periods of time, and really genuinely, we'll back each other up for the right reasons. I'm going to keep your powder dry until I've let Stu have his say. I think he wants to have his say tomorrow night. I think it's only fair that he does, because some of the stuff that he had directed at him personally today was absolute bang out of order. And I'll back that up 100% tomorrow. I think I'd like to let him keep my powder dry on that. From a personal point of view, today I did something I don't do very often, and that's bite. And it's because of more seeing certain things happening with that people that just think, no, this isn't right. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. And from a personal point of view, when I see somebody say, "Oh, would you say that to his face?" and then somebody says, "Oh yeah, I would, definitely would." I spent an entire weekend with you on the opening day of the season, and the only thing I experienced in 5 different bars I was in, and St James's Park, and all over the place, and when we were in having a meal together at the end the Saturday night, nothing but positivity from people coming up to say, "Hey, enjoy what you did, enjoy your content, enjoy what you did during lockdown. Can I have your photo taken?" Dear me, I'm a fat gobshite from the Middle East, for God's sake. What do you want your photo taken with me for? But it's humbling, absolutely humbling. And it reminds you, it's a nice little bit of grounding that, some of this gobshitery does, make a difference along the way. And we're lucky to have platforms like this that have developed over the last few years. And as a fan base, I think we've got some amazing platforms doing some ridiculously good content. And we're always going to disagree at some stage. But again, the Stockholm syndrome of the Mike Ashley era seems to have left certain areas of our fan base almost desperate for a bit of misery, desperate for a bit of internal strife. We just can't enjoy what was a wonderful weekend. And you know what? I'm the first person to put my hand up and say I was wrong on something. I think everybody should know that, and you know that, Steve. God, probably more than anybody else. And I tell you what I got wrong. Pope's proved me wrong. I wasn't sure about Pope being a signing for us, and he's been a hell of a signing. Quite happy to take that. And you know what? I hope ASM shuts my bloody trap this season, scores 20-odd goals, and you know what? I'll not say no again. I'll be happy. And that's a win-win if ever that was. But yeah, that's just my take. Frustrating, I think, is the word I would pick. You're on mute, mate, I think.
Every now and then something comes along like that, Mitch, and it just, it happens. It's happened with everybody, and it'll happen again. And it's how you come through it at the end of the day. It's one of those things. Lennon, good evening, mate. Yep, I saw your dad the other week. I will be in touch with him very soon, but nice to hear from you, Lennon. Let's take a couple of questions. Terry, why don't you do a podcast sooner after a game to get people's immediate reaction while it's fresh in their minds? I'm sure you would get a good following. Terry, I tell you why we don't do that. And it's because NUFC Matters was set up on a completely different angle to the other ones. There was already Newcastle Fans TV out there, Gallagher Shots. There was already some well-established podcasts when we, came in. So at the time that the program was set up, it was set up during lockdown. So we couldn't do that. But that wasn't the reason. It was because we didn't want to mimic what other people were doing. And as I say, from day one, there was no sitting around with whiteboards planning NUFC Matters. This literally started like this with me and Mitch on Instagram. Chatting rubbish. Talking for an hour, trying to keep ourselves sane during lockdown. It was simple as that. And because we were pulling in 1,000 viewers on Instagram, we went with it for a few weeks, and I said, why don't we move it to YouTube? And we had tried to do an NUFC Matters program, me and Supermac, and then me, Supermac, and Gibbo. We did a couple of pilot episodes about a year before lockdown, and it was a bit of a flop. I think we only ended up with about 450 people watching it. That's it. Simple as that. Would we do that? No. I mean, Adam Pearson, he goes out and does them outside the ground. First of all, I'm at the match anyway, home and away. Secondly, it would mean taking camera equipment to the match, which will be an absolute nightmare. Thirdly, you're then dealing with the general public, which I think is, as we've seen with poor Adam, he's standing outside the ground. People are grabbing him, rubbing his hair, shouting obscenities down it's just the way it is. It's a football match. That's what happens. It's not for me. I've got to be perfectly honest. And I also, although I did break the habit of a lifetime at the weekend, of recent lifetime, I tend not to talk about the match until the day after, because it's such a passionate thing, a Newcastle United game and a result, that the one thing you can get is a knee-jerk reaction, and you can end up with a big egg on your face. So I think the likes of the Toon Review, Paul's got a cracking channel. I know they all do stuff. I think it's one of the lads does like Billy Trey, I think, does like a watch along, which is what we used to do during lockdown. Again, because I'm at the match, I can't do that anymore. But I think it works on other channels. I don't think we'll do it. Long-winded answer, but that's it. Club Alang,
I'll give you a simple one about why I wouldn't do it, because you wouldn't get any bloody sense out of us after the game. Usually, got this weekend, my answers would have ended with "I'm sorry, I'm very drunk" most of the time, and that's not great content, to be fair.
No, definitely not. Although when I did one of my news programs drunk, it did create a bit of a laugh on here when I did one of those shows. I'll have to dig it out and share it to everybody. Clubber, this was funny. He lost his job as a bus driver today. He gave up his seat to a blind person. The bus depot said it scared the passengers. Very good. Geordie Tuvalay says, is financial fair play really working as now Arsenal are on the watch list? When you see PSG, Barca, Chelsea, Everton, Man City, etc., even if guilty, nothing really seems to happen to those clubs. Time for a change.
That's UEFA's FFP watch list. And there's 20 clubs on them. And I suspect PSG and Barca might be on there as well. That's a different set of FFP rules to the Premier League ones. So everybody's working to different criteria. Yes, it seems like some clubs are happy to make an nonsense of it. I'm still irked by the handling of Everton's situation last season, and I still think that was the Premier League making a problem they didn't want to have at that time disappear. I'm really not convinced by the answers to some of those solutions. In terms of Arsenal, why would they be on their FFP list? Depends on how they're doing certain things with their transfers in a different way to satisfy Premier League FFP versus what the UEFA one is. I'll be interested to see. Most of the clubs though on UEFA's watch list never actually have anything sanctions against them, and certainly never big clubs. You know what UEFA tend to target? They tend to target clubs which have a historical big name, but really in the modern game are not terribly significant because they feel like they've made a statement. So I think they hit Red Star Belgrade quite heavily a couple of years ago. And they started with former European Cup winners, Red Star Belgrade, have been sanctioned. That sounds fantastic. In the modern game, that's bullshit. Absolute bullshit. So I have little faith in football authorities actually acting properly when it comes to having to make a decision. When you look at La Liga, allowing Barcelona to get away with their fourth league, magically there might be a fifth one appear, one day. That's just a joke. It's people talking hard and not actually acting because they're terrified. Because they know there's still Super League on the agenda in the background. They're terrified that that'll end up, anything any of them do, will end up with a reignition of that, something like that. The challenge for us as a fan base is how do we react, because of the financial wealth that we now have as a club, potentially, we will inevitably be involved in a conversation now. And that's going to be a difficult pill for us as a fan base to swallow going forward, given how we were one of the few voices against it all when they were wanting to do a breakaway league. It really puts us as a fan base in a very difficult situation.
Yeah, it definitely does. What do you think of the penalty decision not given? Penalty all day, says Colin, going back to the game. To be fair, match of the day, Jermaine Defoe, Alan Shearer both called it as a penalty. Shea Given, Jimmy Floyd, Hasselbank and Misha all called it as a penalty as well. I couldn't disagree with them.
Called as a penalty out here by hairy hands even.
Yeah.
And so that tells you a lot. And Andy Gray wasn't overly impressed either. So yeah.
Yep, definitely was. Mozza, good evening. It was lovely to see you at the match, sitting directly behind us. Get that photograph over for the day I met. I think you said you were going to send it. Neil Calvert says, rumours yesterday that Diaby is now not happy at Leverkusen. Any thoughts on that, Neil?
Everything happens in the last 2 weeks of the window. That was always going to happen. All of these, once the money go round starts to happen, and players that we've been linked with or involved with or already had a go at, when somebody turns around and says, do you know what, actually, we should have pushed for this move. And there's two types of transfers we'll be involved in. People who have already been in for and have indicated that it's not. And then suddenly they've not sold other players and the club's suddenly starting to get twitchy, but out to balance the books. And the players' agents maybe saying, maybe it's the right time for a move, and the club might want to sell you. There might be a deal to be done here. And the other ones are, hello, you're struggling to tick your boxes on FFP and you need a bit of cash. How can we help? And they're the two types of transfers I think we've been involved in. And I still maintain there is no budget, there is no plan per se. It's flexible and they will go for players that they deem are the right value at the right time. And if that means blowing the budget this window, they will. And then work out what they're going to do with that after that in subsequent windows. But I still think that trying to be as cautious as possible to stick within everything and keep everything ship-shape and not doing everything. It's a really fine balance. But I think they're doing it very well. And I still believe at the end of this window, we'll all look back quite happy with what we've done.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think you're right, and I still think we'll break the transfer record. I'm certainly got into that kind of zone with Stu, mate. I just feel it's coming, and Newcastle are certainly doing their business and doing it quietly. And of course, the chief executive starts this week as well.
Yeah, and again, that brings more to the table in terms of organising stuff in the background. We certainly don't think we'll have the debacle we've had with Castoria again, for example, with the CAU in place like that. Because there's my understanding with how the whole story things work out, there's been plenty of mistakes made in plenty different places on both sides of the manufacturer and the club and everything else. And we've been hamstrung with the deal that Ashley left us with Castoria. And so negotiating that little minefield is exactly the kind of thing that when you see will be fantastic.
Yeah, he did a great job elsewhere, and from our perspective, Let's hope that he can do it here as well. Tom Lynch, you're right about Joe Linton. Proved many of us wrong. Yeah, I mean, look, he was a symbol of ridicule on this platform. You go back and watch the programs. Supermac in particular. I mean, who are we to question Supermac, a legend at Newcastle who wore the number 9 shirt with such pride in the 1970s? You know, and still the only English player to score 5 goals at Wembley for England. And you know, he just said there's not a footballer in there. Biggest waste of 40 million. We all said it. Look at him now. He's like a midfield enforcer. Yeah, fair play. That's it, yeah. That's it. We disagree on here. We do disagree on here as well, you know, and it's just football. That's what happens, mate. It's what happens 100%.
I think Joe Linton's a confidence player. And I think that number 9 weighed very heavily on his back. And I think he didn't have enough backing from the people around the playing staff at the time and around the coaching staff at the time to build that confidence back up. And I think they really are now he's in a zone whereby it'd be difficult to shift him from that, I think. And there always was glimpses, but there were only glimpses of that there was somebody in there who could really play football. That goal he scored early on against Spurs, the volley or half volley, that takes a hell of a lot of technical skill to achieve. If you take a ball out of St. Peter's Fields or wherever and try and do it yourself, I tell you what, you can put more of them over the bar than you put in the back of the net. And things like that, there was glimpses there. And he's a unit. He's built like a bloody cruiserweight boxer, probably even more so now. But he didn't look like he had the confidence to use that weight. And now we're sticking him in as Robocop, as Stu calls him, you know, bouncing around the midfield. He'll clatter anybody and he'll not give a damn. And that's fantastic. But that all comes from confidence.
Big shout out to you, Alan. Yes, I know exactly who you are. Good to see you. Always good to see new faces in the Dog and Parrot. This weekend was brilliant. We had a really good crowd pre-match and after-match. Fantastic. Toby, big shout out to you. I remember seeing you in the Strawberry, I think it was. And yes, you're right. You did post the photo up. It did actually make Troll of the Week, Toby, the comment that the kid put. But that's just my way of laughing at it and dealing with it, mate. And Toby, it was an absolute pleasure to meet you as well. Steve, seriously, Sunday morning review would be a good idea. Sunday mornings are a hive of chatter about the match. Kevin, we do usually have a set show, on a weekend, on a Saturday and a Sunday. But because the Premier League fixtures are just all over the shop, we always find it hard. And especially if I'm going to a game, it is difficult. But look, I will always listen to people in the chat. I will take it on board. If we can do something a little bit more regular with that, then we will. We do 7 shows a week, and squeezing different shows in can be difficult. And again, it's availability of people, mate. But listen, I will listen to what you've got to say, and we will see what we can do as and when we can over the course of the season. Why can't the financial fair play rules be the same throughout? Financial fair play rules seem to have more loopholes than UK tax law, says Dunno.
That would take multiple football bodies to agree on something, and often without a little brown envelope here, there, and everywhere. That doesn't happen.
Brian H says, question for Mitch, do you have many patients the day after the match?
Yeah, but the day after the match, I didn't start until midday, so I had a little bit of time to sort myself out as well.
Brilliant. Michael says the whole premise behind financial fair play needs to be looked at. In my view, its implementation is geared more towards preserving the status quo rather than levelling the playing field. You're not getting any disagreements with us. Mozza, thank you. You've sent the photo. We will be featuring that at the weekend. Another stupid rule. Foul rule that the penalty wasn't given because it was in the box. Foul all day, anywhere else. You're right, so monkey seat 100%. Question, says Michael, putting you on the spot, Mitch. I assume you think we will add to the squad. Who is that marquee signing going to be, if anyone?
Still stick with the 3 Ps that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. Paqueta, Pulisic, and Pedro. And I guess Paqueta could be. Is he classed as a marquee signing? Well, I guess he's a Brazilian international. Would add to a Brazilian contingent, and I think would add something to the squad. You want to keep Bruno happy? Bring his mate in.
Yeah. George Bainbridge says he went to the doctors today. He said, I had a fever. I said, what type is it? He said, cup fever. Is it good news? I said. He says, yes, you've got a double dose. It's called League and FA Cup winning fever. George, that would be nice.
Wish I had that confidence, I tell you.
Michael says, talking about Everton being in for Miggy, what would you do if that's so? What price would you charge? I'd keep him. He's been the best player in pre-season. I wouldn't sell him, and I don't think Eddie Howe wants anybody to go out. In fact, he said he doesn't want players to go out. I don't think we'll sell him.
He did, but I think he is one who could be vulnerable at the right price. But I think the right price, looking around what the market is, it'd be 35 million plus. Yeah.
God, I mean, it could be more than that. Yeah, it could be. Darren Neal starts this week. What's his key priorities, Mitch?
Interesting. He's got a big job on his hands. We were left a genuine ghost ship. There's so many areas of the club that need improvement, or indeed built from scratch again. I would love to see him come in and get very quickly a level of fair and balanced fan engagement, which takes into account as many different possible views as he can. And I think that's the key. It can't be left with one group or one set of individuals to give that, because we've said this on many times, even though we're accused of other things. No one individual or group of individuals can speak for our entire fan base. We've got more opinions than the Tory MP. And so they need to reach out and find as many ways to reach out to get a good and fair cross-section of the fan base's input into where things need to be improved. Ticket office sounds like that needs a big revamp. And obviously there's the Castoria clusterfuck going on still. And that needs really... something needs to be worked out there, even just for somebody to take ownership of it and say we actually give a damn, because it's starting to feel like nobody cares, which is unusual given how much people within the club seem to care about other areas and other things. This Castoria one seems to be lots of silence from all sides at the moment, nobody actually seeming to go out their way to take ownership of it. And personally, because each shirt comes out with Newcastle United's crest on it, they surely have to take ownership of it.
Last question tonight. What can you tell us about Straight Line, the ladies' team sponsor? I'm not 100% sure what they do. I've got to be honest. Do you know anything about them? I know they're based in the north.
Not a clue. I'm out the loop entirely on that, mate. So no, unfortunately.
I think is it a general builder or something like that? Maybe. Anybody got any? Oh yeah, here I've got it. I have got it. Here we go. Straight Line transforming the Northeast. Founded in 1980, Straight Line Northeast Limited has evolved from modest beginnings as a general builder and have been refurbishing social housing across the northeast of England for over 40 years. Working in partnership with local authorities, arm's length management organisations and housing associations, they've improved tens and thousands of homes. So there you go. Hope that helps. Donald. Great substitute tonight. Well done, Mitch. Great show, says Colin. Over 550 watching tonight. Thank you very much. Mitch, thanks for stepping in. Ben has apologised. He will be on 6 till 7 tomorrow. Would you be okay to jump on with Stu 7 till 8, Mitch?
I think I should be, anybody.
Or do you want to get on? Or do you want to get on with Ben?
Either way, just a shout.
Right. Okay.
Talk about it tomorrow, mate. No worries.
Great stuff, mate. Thanks for jumping on. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to all the moderators as usual. And thanks to you for keeping it NUFC Matters. We will see you tomorrow night. Take care. Good night.
Cheers, everyone.